מתחילים. קודם כל, תודה רבה שהצטרפתם אלינו היום. שמי יעל סלמה מאגמה, מרכז הידע לשיקום נחלים ואגני היקוות. היום בחרנו להביא פרויקט שבעינינו הוא בהחלט השראה. הפרויקט הזה, שיקום אגן האמשר בגרמניה, הוא פרויקט שיש לו כבר 125 שנים של ניסיון באיך משקמים נהר בסקייל אגני. הנהר הזה סבל בעבר מזיהום תעשייתי מאוד כבד ופגיעה משמעותית גם בתפקודים שלו וגם בשירותי המערכת שהוא מספק. ולאורך השנים הוא עבר גם טיפול במזהמים וגם שיקום שהוא שיקום אקולוגי. היום אנחנו מארחים את דוקטור מריו זומר-הויזר ודוקטור נדין ג'רנר מהקואופרטיב של אגן ההמשר, שהולכים להציג לנו גם את הפרויקט וגם תובנות מתוך הניסיון שצברו לאורך השנים. לפני שנתחיל, חשוב לי רגע לציין שהפרויקט הזה הוא חלק משותפות אירופאית בשם מרלין. אני מניחה שלחלקכם, אני מקווה שלרובכם אפילו, השותפות הזאת כבר מוכרת. זאת שותפות של עשרות מוסדות אקדמיים וגופים מקצועיים שעוסקים בעולם הזה של שיקום נחלים מכל רחבי אירופה. גם לנו בישראל יש פרויקט שהוא נציג בתוך השותפות, ונמצא ופועל ובעצם קורה בנחל ציפורי. את המפגש הזה היום ינחה דוקטור ירון הרשקוביץ, ראש המרכז לאקולוגיה אקוואטית ושותף אקדמי בפרויקט של מרלין בנחל ציפורי. ירון הוא גם קולגה של דוקטור מריו ודוקטור נדין. רגע לפני שאני מעבירה לירון את הבמה, אני רק אציין שאנחנו בפורמט היום של וובינר, אז אתם מוזמנים לשלוח עלינו שאלות ב-Q&A שנמצא כאן למטה בכפתור. בסוף אנחנו נקדיש זמן לענות על כל השאלות. אנחנו מזכירים, אנחנו מארחים היום קולגות מחו"ל, המפגש הזה הולך להתנהל רובו באנגלית. וזהו, אנחנו שוב, תודה לכולם, לכל מי שהצטרף, ואני מעבירה עכשיו את המקל, את הבמה לירון. ירון, בבקשה.
כן, תודה רבה. תודה יעל, ותודה למי שמצטרף. אני לא רואה אתכם, אבל אני נעשה את זה מצגת קצרה, ככה להכניס אתכם לעניין. רגע, בואו נראה שאני מצליח להעלות את זה. ונתחיל מפה, share. אני מקווה שרואים.
זה לא במסך מלא, ירון.
לא במסך מלא, אז זה ישתבש כמובן. בואו נראה איך זה יעבוד עכשיו. קצת בעייתי. קודם זה עבד. ועכשיו?
מעולה.
מעולה, יופי. טוב, סליחה. טוב, אז אחת השאלות שבוודאי אתם שואלים את עצמכם, חלק מהצופים, מה לנו יש ללמוד משיקום נחלים בגרמניה, באירופה? כשאנחנו מדמיינים נחלים, נהרות בגרמניה, זה מה שאנחנו רואים לנגד עינינו. נהר רחב ידיים, הרבה מאוד מים, הרבה ירוק, לפעמים גם יש עיירות קטנות וכפרים קטנים לאורך הנהר. איפה הבעיות שלהם ואיפה הבעיות שלנו? מה לנו ולהם? אין קשר. מה אנחנו יכולים כבר ללמוד מהם? הם נמצאים בעולם אחר לחלוטין. מזג אוויר אחר, הרבה גשם, כן? אז ברור שזאת התפיסה, אבל זאת התפיסה. גם הרבה פעמים שאני מדבר עם אנשים על שיקום נחלים, מה אפשר ללמוד מהאירופאים? אז לא כל הנחלים ולא כל הנהרות נראים ככה, באירופה וגם אפילו לא בגרמניה. יש גם כאלה נחלים בגרמניה. לא מעט אפילו, לא מעט נחלים, גם במיוחד באזורים היותר חקלאיים, הרבה מאוד נחלים שנראים לנו מוכרים, נחלים חקלאיים שאפילו הפכו להיות תעלות, תעלות מוסדרות עם גדות גבוהות למניעת הצפות, אנחנו מכירים גם את זה אצלנו, ורחמנא ליצלן יש אפילו נחל, נהר, תלוי איך שמסתכלים עליו, שנראה ככה. הוא תעלה מוסדרת, גדות מכוסחות, הנדסי. מי שמכיר גם נחלים, הוא יכול לזהות את הצבע העכור. מדובר כאן על מוביל שפכים, וזה נהר, בעצם נהר פתוח שמוביל שפכים. מאוד מאוד דומה, לצערנו הרב, למה שקורה בישראל, בלא מעט מהנחלים שלה. וזה האמשר. זה האמשר בחלק מהמקטעים שלו עדיין היום, ואנחנו נשמע על זה בוובינר. אני לא אקח כאן את הבמה, אבל זה כבר איזשהו חיבור. אפשר להבין, אנחנו לא נמצאים בעולם שכולו, שכל הנחלים בו במצב מצוין, יש גם בעיות גם בגרמניה. ואיך מתמודדים עם הבעיות הללו, אנחנו עוד מעט נשמע. עכשיו, החיבור לאמשר, כשאני יצא לי להכיר אותו לפני כמה שנים, מיד ראיתי את קווי הדמיון. א', בנושא הזה של זיהום, אבל יותר מזה. בתמונה כאן אנחנו יכולים לראות את האמשר בשנות ה-50. מפעל תעשייתי, זה מפעלי פלדה, זה אזור שהוא מאוד, היה אזור שעסק בפחם ובפלדה. אפשר לראות כאן את האמשר שזורם ליד. ולמי שמכיר קצת את מה זה מזכיר, מיד, לפחות אצלי, ישר קפץ הקישון. גם פה, מפעל תעשייה שהוקם על גדות נחל, נהר אולי, בסדרי הגודל שלנו. והדמיון לא נגמר כאן. הנה אנחנו רואים פה את אגן ההיקוות של האמשר, שזורם ממזרח למערב ומתחבר אל נהר הרור. בעצם האמשר הוא היובל של הרור. ובקווי דמיון מאוד דומים, אפשר לראות גם שזה הציפורי שמתנקז אל הקישון. בעצם יש לנו כאן אפילו קווי דמיון מבחינת המבנה של אגן ההיקוות. סדרי הגודל שונים, אבל המבנה דומה קצת. ואולי אנקדוטלי, אפילו הלוגוים קצת דומים. הלוגו של Emschergenossenschaft Lippeverband, שזה האגודה, או אפשר לקרוא לזה הרשות האגנית, יחד עם רשות ניקוז ונחלים קישון, אפילו זה קצת דומה. אם אנחנו מסתכלים מקרוב יותר על החיבור, כאן רואים את האמשר שמתחבר אל הרור, זה בעצם החיבור בין שני הנחלים. תסתכלו מצד ימין, מה אנחנו רואים כאן? את הלבניות ואזור התעשייה. אנחנו לא נמצאים בקישון, למרות שזה מאוד מאוד דומה, מאוד מזכיר. הנה, כאן גם לנו יש את הלבניות, זו תמונה ישנה, אחת מהן כבר קרסה, והשנייה בטח תיפול גם היא בקרוב. אבל יש כאן, אפשר לראות כבר את הדמיון. אז מה יש לנו ללמוד משיקום נחלים בגרמניה? קודם כל, מה שאנחנו צריכים לקחת זה השראה. איך לוקחים אזור, או אזור די גדול, שהושפע במשך עשרות שנים מזיהום תעשייתי, זיהום אורבני, מתיעול, בעצם מאוד דומה למה שהנחלים שלנו עברו, ועדיין נמצאים תחת עקות סביבתיות קשות, ולהתחיל להפוך אותם לפנינות טבע, להחזיר את הטבע, לעשות שיקום. אז איך עושים את זה? איך בעצם מיישמים, לוקחים את ההשראה הזאת, את האינספיריישן, והופכים למעשים? אז אחת הדרכים, ובעצם הדרך שעזרה לנו להיכנס לזה, זה דרך הפרויקט שמקודם דובר עליו, פרויקט מרלין, שזה פרויקט אירופאי גדול, שכולל הרבה מאוד שותפים בכל אירופה, והקישון, או הציפורי, רשות ניקוז נחלים קישון, יחד עם רשות האמשר, נמצאים תחת קבוצת העבודה של נחלים קטנים, ובאמת פה נוצר חיבור, אפילו יש כאן איזשהו טווינינג בין שתי הקבוצות, קבוצות העבודה, ומפה התחלנו כבר לחשוב על איך אפשר לשתף פעולה ואיך אפשר לקבל רעיונות. וההזדמנות הגיעה כשהציפורי, כחלק מתהליך השיקום, נדרש לשקם איזשהו מקטע של הנחל. זה המקטע שאנחנו בפרויקט, או בפרויקט נקרא פרויקט מרלין, אבל מרלין זה השם של הפרויקט הגדול. לקחת אזור שהיה מעין בריכת דגים נטושה, באזור עמק זבולון. כאן אנחנו רואים את הציפורי, כתעלת הציפורי אפילו, מה שנשאר ממנה, זורמת בתוך חתך תעלתי ליד אותה בריכת דגים נטושה, ולקבל השראה. ותסתכלו איזה יופי. מצד ימין אנחנו רואים בתמונה את מה שנקרא אמשר אוהן, שזה פרויקט שהושלם לא מזמן. גם כאן האמשר זורם בתעלה מצד ימין, קצת יותר מים, אבל ראינו כבר, אני באיזשהו מקום זיהיתי כבר את קווי הדמיון, ואמרתי, זה נראה מעניין, אולי נקבל מזה השראה. הצילום הזה, יחד עם חלק מהסרטוטים, עברו לצוות של הציפורי, בוצע איזשהו סרטוט רעיוני שמתבסס על זה. הנה, אפשר לעשות משהו דומה אפילו. לא באותם סדרי גודל, לא אותן איכויות, אבל אפשר לעשות משהו דומה. ובאמת הרעיון קרם עור וגידים, בסופו של דבר יצא פרויקט, אני לא ארחיב על זה כי זה לא המקום ולא הזמן, למי שירצה יש הזדמנויות אחרות, אבל הנה, לקחנו השראה מפרויקט קיים, והצלחנו ליישם אותו. אז זו דוגמה אחת, אבל כמו שאמרתי, הרעיון הוא בעצם להסתכל, לקבל השראה קצת יותר רחבה, ללמוד איך לקחו אזור כל כך מזוהם וכל כך מהונדס, ואיך הם התרחקו מה-engineered, מהפתרונות ההנדסיים, שזה מה שהיה, להסתכל יותר לכיוון של nature-based solution, פתרונות מבוססי טבע, ולהפוך את הנחלים ואת התעלות על הנחלים שהיו תעלות, בחזרה לנחלים זורמים עם מים נקיים. זה יכול להיות גם החזון אצלנו בארץ, זה צריך להיות, זה כבר חלק, אבל איך עושים את זה בפועל? פה אנחנו גם צריכים להסתכל מה נעשה בעולם, ולשם כך, I'm happy to host you, my colleagues and friends, Dr. Mario Sommerhauser and Dr. Nadine Gernner, that will give us their insights and their point of view of how to do that, how they did that for more than 125 years. So I leave the stage to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Jaron. From the pictures, we could also follow the comparisons that you draw. Okay, we also brought a presentation that I will share now. Okay. Mario?
Yes, I'm listening, but I'm not able to start my video. It says the host has to start the video. If you want to see my face, but I think it's not. Now it works.
Now it's working.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, thanks again, Jaron, and welcome to all of you. I have the honor to start this presentation, but we will change the speaker between, and Nadine will overtake later. So it's about the Emscher Basin, and it's also about the Emscher restoration, and of course about the Emschergenossenschaft, a strange word for our water administration company. Okay, let's start. Yes, before let me say one word to my person. I'm head of Department River and Landscape. That's a department of, let me say, 28 people working on ecological improvement of River Emscher and a bigger river, Lippe, about water quality issues, biodiversity, and so on. And Nadine is another person in our team. She will be probably my follower in future. I'm very happy about this. And I'm happy to share this job today to present you the Emscher together. Okay, let's start with the history of the Emscher. Next slide, please. The Emscher is a real lowland river. Jaron has shown you in the beginning a picture of a river in Germany, probably River Rhine, in a mountain area. The Emscher is a clear lowland river. You see the meanders all along the river. This map is about 200 years old, 230 years old, but you already see these red lines. The people thought in this period of time about stratification, straightening of the river for mills and shipping, but they were not successful. There were only a few people living in this area. In total, 200,000. And this area is today the biggest agglomeration of cities and people in Germany and probably in Europe. Next slide, please. What happened? In the second part of the 19th century, they started the steel production, and they found also hard coal in this area. And the graph on the right side shows the increase of hard coal mining, the green color, and the population, the increase of population in blue color. And it's only a period of 7 decades, and you really see that the population exploded. And what you also see on this historic picture is a mining facility and a lot of water. And the water is an effect of subsidences at the surface because of the subterranean coal mining. Okay, we go on with the next slide. And in the same period of time, in only 50 years, the formerly very nice Emscher River, this nice meandering river, was completely destroyed. The young cities in this area, the booming area, was not able to manage the wastewater and the stormwater. Everything went into the river Emscher. It was not treated in this time, and this was the reason why it was always filled with water, where there were severe floodings. And we also had diseases like cholera, typhus, and malaria in this time. Another picture which shows you the situation. And this wooden bridge is not a solution for a moment. It's it's for the whole year. In this time, the new cities in this area were not able to manage the situation on their own. So this led to the funding of the Emschergenossenschaft in 1899. I come back to this later. And the only solution to deal with this dramatic situation was to channelize all rivers flowing to the Emscher itself, as you see it in these photographs here, to make them straight and to fix them with concrete and so on in order to get rid of the wastewater and the stormwater. Very pragmatic, but ecologically completely dead rivers. This is the right moment to introduce you the Emschergenossenschaft briefly. We are located in the western part of Germany, close to the Dutch border, as you see here in the slides. And we are responsible not only for Emscher in the blue color on the right map, but also for Lippe, which is a bigger basin. And the difference is that the Emscher area is a highly dense, an urban area with a lot of people, about 4 million people living there, a lot of industries. And in the green area of Lippe, that's a more agricultural area. Yeah, now we go to the catchment of the Emscher. Some figures and drawing here. You see the whole river basin, some of the cities along the Emscher. Maybe you know Essen or Dortmund, but Dortmund is missing in the map, bigger one, or Duisburg. And you see that the Emscher flows into the River Rhine on the at the end of after about 80 or 90 kilometers. It's not a big river. And in total, the inhabitants of this area are 2.2 million people living there. And this means 2,600 people per square kilometer. Okay. Yeah, genau. And this Emscher Water Association is a unique thing. It was founded by law. And not only Emschergenossenschaft was founded by law as a public service, part of the public service. There are some more water boards in North Rhine-Westphalia, our federal state, which have the same history. And the story behind this is that due to the industrialization, they had to deal with many problems by coal mining, by industry, by steel industry, by production in the 19th century and the early 20th century. And the solution to solve this situation around wastewater treatment, drinking water supply, stormwater management, floods, was to found these companies here, these water boards, and Emschergenossenschaft is the eldest one. And together with Lippeverband, we are the biggest public water management company in Germany. And we are doing all jobs around the water cycle, as you can see here in this slide, without drinking water supply. This is done by another water board, but flood protection, waste recycle, rainwater management, pumping, climate adaptation, some new challenges like solar thermic, slab drying, wind power, wastewater treatment, of course, restoration or renaturation of rivers, polder management. I explain this later. But today also bike path, ferries for the people who enjoy to ride along, to drive along the new restored rivers. Polder management, by the way, means that due to the coal mining, we have several areas, I think to a great extent of our river basin, which would be filled by water because of the subsidence of the surface as a result of coal mining, if there were not a lot of pumping stations. I think around 500 pumps are responsible to manage the groundwater level and to make it possible to live and work in this area. Very special situation in coal mining areas, hard coal mining areas. These were the founders of the Emschergenossenschaft in 1899, strange-looking guys in this time. And if you're able to read the words, okay, it's not necessary, but the company was founded by the Prussian law, by the Prussian king. That's really long ago. And it was founded by a law. There's a law about the Emschergenossenschaft. Okay, now we can go on. The Emschergenossenschaft is part of a corporation structure, which is really as part of the region. And the members are the municipalities in the Emscher area, the mining industry, or the followers of the mining industry, because today we do not have any coal mining in this area. This is finished some years ago, but the followers of the mining industry are members, and also commercial and industrial companies. And the municipalities, they have to be member. This is also written in the law. They have to be members of these water board, of this German Genossenschaft, or cooperative in English. And the Emschergenossenschaft is financed mainly by the wastewater fees of municipalities and commercial and industrial companies. And we are also part of the environmental administration in our federal state. Our supervisor authority is the Federal Environmental Ministry. Okay, can go on, I think. What means cooperative in our philosophy? One of the first cooperatives was founded by a person which is called Raiffeisen. You see him on the right side. And the idea behind a cooperative, or in German Genossenschaft, is are these terms here, these words: solidarity, democracy, freedom. And the principles are self-help, self-government, self-organization. That means all members of the cooperative are winners of this idea. They contribute to the cooperative, but they also receive their benefit from the cooperative. And they all have a vote to steer or to judge about the goals of the cooperative. That's the idea behind, and it's a very democratic construction in our view. And we also think it's very modern again. Next slide, please. Here you see some figures about the member and contribution structure of both water associations, Emschergenossenschaft and Lippeverband. You see that on the left side, the number of members, on the right side, the contributions in million euros each year. You see that our members are also the federal state of North Rhine-Westphalia, more than 60 municipalities, nearly 272 commercial infrastructure companies, and 12 following companies of the coal mining industry. On the right side, you can see that most of the money comes from the municipality, about 409 million euros each year, paid via the wastewater fees of the municipalities. And for several special tasks we are conducting for the municipalities. Okay, I think we can go on. So the idea of our cooperative is we are part of the public service, public corporation. We have a very modern management with all infrastructures of a modern company. And the cooperative is the basic idea behind our water board. Okay. Now we come back to the Emscher. Okay, as I mentioned before, the only solution in this time, beginning of the 20th century, solve the big problems around this polluted river, which was not able to deal with this lots of water and wastewater, was to channelize it. And for more, or let me say around 100 years, we had a river like this. You can see here these slides of very ugly situations. This is not the Emscher, these are different tributaries. Yeah, I think you can see the colors, for example, on the left side. And you also see that in the middle picture, that the people are living very close to this polluted river, because you have to know this river is not only channelized, it's an open sewer for wastewater. So all the wastewater of this area was transported in an open sewer system to the River Rhine, and in the beginning it was not treated. In the decades later, it was treated at several sites, but in the main river, for a long time, they had really an open river system with open wastewater. And there's a reason for this, because of the coal mining. The geology was always in motion. It was too dangerous to have an underground sewage system like in other metropolitan areas, like in London or Paris or somewhere else, because there was a risk that the subterranean pipes could be broken, the groundwater could be polluted, and the solution was, and the easy and cheap solution was, to use all these rivers and tributaries as open sewers. Next slide, please. Yes, and then in the early 19th, there was the idea that we could not go on with a destroyed river like this with open wastewater. We wanted the region to be more modern, to be open for new inhabitants. And the coal mining, it was clear that the coal mining would be over in a few years or few decades. And the idea was born to go back from the gray, from the polluted and destroyed river to a blue one, to a blue-green area, to make the whole region more attractive. And we called it the second conversion. The first one was the technical for the open sewer, and the second one is a transformation again to a blue river. And the slides from the left at the top, they show you last meanders in the floodplain area of the Emscher, and the technical solution. On the right side at the top, very perfect, very typical German, over-engineered a little bit. And on the left side at the bottom, the construction of subterranean sewage channels, and on the right side, the result, the fresh restored small tributary to the Emscher. One of many examples. And it was possible to construct these subterranean sewers now because the coal mining was over. It was possible to calculate the movement of the soil, of the geology better. And this was the start to construct really a new subterranean sewer system. This great Emscher conversion is probably the biggest, I think the biggest restoration project all over Europe. It's at least the most expensive one. On the left side, you have some information. The first was to construct more than 400 kilometers of new subterranean sewers, then to restore 330 water bodies, the construction of 4 decentral wastewater treatment plants in the early 19th. At the moment, we are improving these wastewater treatment plants. We are adding a 4th treatment stage, as we call it. This means treatment facilities for specific chemicals, for micropollutants, hormones, and so on. And the overall budget for this is 5.5 billion euros. That's really a lot of money, but you have to keep in mind it's spent over 30 years. Okay, we go on. And in 2021, at the end of 2021, the whole system was free of sewage, completely free of sewage. It was all in the subterranean pipe system. This was the first great success for the Emscher and the tributaries, but many of the tributaries were of course free of wastewater before, but this was the important point when also the main river, the Emscher, was completely free of sewage. And you see all these headlines in the newspapers. It was a big, a big headline for the people, a positive news. Okay, we go on. And here, just one example, Nadine and her team is monitoring the situation in the Emscher, the water quality, by different monitoring methods. One of them is 24/7 monitoring by about 8 stations, which round the clock measure the quality of water. And here you see the result of the ammonia concentration before the wastewater was led to the underground sewer. And after this, around Christmas in our year 2021, 24th of December, and after this this happened, you see that ammonia, the concentration is very much lower than before. And today it's close, or more or less close to the yellow line here, or under the yellow line, which is a threshold value for this parameter according to European law. So we managed to meet the line right now. Before it was a very big pollution. Okay, we go on. Yeah, here again some slides about this restoration project, and some on the right side some results. The rivers look very different. Some of them look very natural. Some are still a bit technical, like the one on the bottom on the right side. You see that it's quite low in the the shape is quite low in the surrounding, which means that we still have to care for flood protection, and it's not always possible to lift the bed of the river higher than it is right now. But after some years, you will not see the fixations anymore. And the development progress is really impressive after a few years. You will see some examples later. Yeah. The construction of the new water course system follows always the same steps. In this slide, you see a typical technical cross-section of a wastewater stream. First step is to put the wastewater in the subterranean pipe, as you see here on the right. Then we can widen the cross profile, the cross section, but we cannot move it more up to the surface, as I mentioned before. But the river has now enough space to do its own work, to have some dynamics, and yeah, that's what happens. And usually along the bicycle path, everywhere you can see you cannot really see, but you know that you are driving on the new sewer, and on the other side you can see the new river. Yeah, this slide shows you a typical of tributary to River Emscher before restoration and after the restoration. Today we have more than 170 kilometers already restored. They all look more or less like the river on the right side. And I think you can also see that the river has some possibilities to move in this riverbed, to have some self-dynamics. And in the back, you see a very big building. It's the center of the city of Essen. So all these rivers and streams are really close to the cities, and they provide a lot of quality of life, far more than before on the left side, of course. Yeah. For the Emscher, it's a little bit more problematic to do the restoration. We have on many stretches of the Emschers, we have dikes, or we have a shipping channel beside the Emscher, or a motorway. We have not so much space, but we are doing some experiments. We move the bank fixations at the Emscher River. We allow the water plants to grow, and this is what you see on the right side. This was a small project, not a big building project. Just remove the fixation and let the river do itself the work, and it looks far more natural than before on the left side. Yeah, this is what I mentioned before, the Emscher, the really ugly river Emscher in the middle. It's wastewater free today, but the situation is far from natural. And as I said before, it's difficult to do the restoration. Have a look at the right side. The small river in the middle is the Emscher. And then you have a big shipping channel beside the Emscher. On the other side, a highway. And you can imagine that 5.5 billion euro is not enough to construct a new highway or to remove the shipping channel. So at sites like this, we don't have so many chances for the Emscher, but we have a solution for this. On the next slide. We decided that along the Emscher, and you see the course of the Emscher from the spring to the mouth into River Rhine, from right to left. And you see these circles in blue and green and red. And these are areas we call ecological core areas. They function as stepping stones along the river. We have about 20 of these core areas. This map is not up to date completely. Today we have about 6 of these core areas already finished. 6 are under construction, and the others are planned already. And these stepping stones are sites where we were able to buy a lot of land. We could remove the dikes and to make a lot of space for the river. And we use these areas as multifunctional, nature-based sites for flood protection, for biodiversity, for the people, for leisure and freedom. I think we will have a look into these sites. And between these ecological core areas, we still have the straightened River Emscher. These are areas where we don't have a real chance to do restoration or renaturation as it should be. This was the solution for River Emscher.
Okay, I will continue with the
Yes.
ecological core areas, as we call them, or the ecological hotspots. So starting here with a very, like a lighthouse project really, is the new development of the mouth of the Emscher, so where the Emscher meets the River Rhine. On the left side, you see that originally the Emscher arrived here very straightened, and then there was a few meter drop to the River Rhine. So there was no possibility for fish or other species to migrate into the Emscher. And this was changed by acquiring the land and having a huge construction site for many years to develop a new delta. So this here is a digital version, but on the next slide, you see the real construction of the site, the deviation of the straightened river into this new delta. And you already see also the dikes are moved to give space for flood retention, both for the Emscher and also for the Rhine. The construction was finished and inaugurated. This was very interesting for many people come to see this inauguration and the changes of the river flow here. This was in November 22, and since then the area has developed a lot. You see here some numbers. So we have an extension of the river length and an additional retention volume for flood water. And we have in the subsequent year, we have done a monitoring of species, including both aquatic and terrestrial species, also plants, animals, all kinds of species, and we came up to a number of more than 800 species in this area. Here you see a picture showing the function as flood retention area or flood retention basin. As I said, both for the Emscher water, but also for the Rhine water using this retention area. And another site is the flood retention basin in Dortmund, which is more towards the source of the Emscher River. The Emscher is still a bit smaller, but it's large enough that during floods it increases a lot in size, and there's a risk of flood, especially with climate change and more intensive rain events that are happening here. So 2 additional flood protection basins were constructed in a near natural way. So also here, trying to make them as near natural and also as multifunctional as possible. You see the size of the retention basin, and also here with the species inventory, we could monitor that species return very quickly. And in this area, 160 bird species were already seen. On the right side, you see this restored farm, which is kind of an environmental center now. It's also hosting a cafe and a organic gardening project. There's some different events during the year, and we just try to bring people back to the water, to the outdoor areas, to enjoy also bird watching here, or just seeing the restored sites and learning about environmental aspects. Life returns to the rivers. This is the example that I just mentioned. So 160 species of birds were detected at this new basin for flood retention. This is just one example. Birds are one of the first species that also people, not specialists, for example, in invertebrate species, they can detect them very easily. And so this is really a visual effect, a positive effect of the restoration. Important species to people is also the return of fish species, which is less visible, but still an important indicator of the ecological development of the restored rivers. Here we have detected more than 20 species of fish already in the Emscher, and more than 300 species of invertebrates, including mussels, insects, crabs. We are constantly monitoring the species inventory, but from time to time we do a special monitoring day, as the one at the mouth of the Emscher, where we invite people also to learn about the species and the return of species, and also the preconditions like water quality that are necessary despite the restoration for a good ecological development. Invertebrate species, it's a bit more difficult to communicate the value of these species, but the concept of the feeding net, the functions of ecosystems and ecosystem services, and as I said, these public monitoring days, we can show the need for these species to return to the rivers. The beaver is a bit of a special animal in terms of public perceivement. So people are also kind of scared of the beaver to return because it's very active and it changes the landscape. In the Merlin research project that Jaron mentioned in the beginning, there's a special case study on the beaver activities and the functions in terms of water retention. So there are many advantages also, and ways how to manage to live with the beaver in the rivers. Yes, we are focusing not only on the aquatic ecosystems, but also on the shorelines and the areas surrounding the streams. So one main aim is to increase biodiversity and to change the management of all these areas to a more sustainable way, more biodiverse way, and also here to highlight the ecosystem functions and services that this brings. Yeah, despite these ecological aspects, there's also economical and social aspects that are improved with the restoration activities. You see here on the bottom the example of Lake Phoenix in Dortmund. There used to be a steelworks company on the site where now the lake is located. This was a huge restoration project, and the lake is now there since 2010. It developed very nicely, also in an ecological way, and especially people, they valorize the possibility to go biking and hiking, spending time here. Another aspect is also the environmental education that we use when restoring streams. Like you see also here, education of pupils in the so-called blue classrooms where pupils can access the streams and learn about the aquatic life. The bike lanes were mentioned as one of our tasks, so to give the rivers back to the people and to facilitate them using these areas for recreation. This is again the example of Lake Phoenix, which is very popular, but this continues now throughout the whole basin with different ecological hotspots, as we call them. What I just mentioned here, this example of the lake in Dortmund, you see again the old steelworks company, which was removed, and then this lake was created, which is now a very symbolic place for the city and for the region. And it highlights the potential of river restoration to also act as a regional transformer, so to enhance also the attractiveness of the cities and the life quality. We have also many examples where this life quality is enhanced through ways of urban development linked to water. So mainly looking at sustainable rainwater management in different contexts. For example, also creating lakes in cities or just having small sponge facilities that store water and act as a cooling element also during hot summer weeks. All this is part of master plan, and all this also feeds into the economic value of the Emscher restoration. So Mario mentioned the costs that are needed for all these restoration activities, for the construction of the infrastructure and for the restoration of the rivers. But these activities also give a financial return, which sums up to 13 billion euros and also to more than 40,000 jobs linked to all these tasks. To slowly come to an end, the last chapter here is about climate adaptation. So we are also experiencing here more severe events of heat and drought. Streams are falling dry. And on the other side, we have more extreme rain events that also lead to flooding of cities. And also here we highlight the nature-based solutions as the way forward. So on the left side, we see how these nature-based solutions can help to make urban areas or also agriculturally used areas more sustainable. And on the right side, how to develop natural areas to still act as flood protection areas, and also to work in harmony with water use, with agriculture, to find solutions that are viable and still sustainable in the sense of the sponge concept. So yeah, have the sponge city spread to the whole area. So kind of a sponge landscape concept. Some more examples of these sponge management measures in cities to infiltrate rainwater, to hold it back and to let it evaporate or lead it to the streams. There's also a special project that is funding single measures in order to trigger, to support this development. Yeah, to sum up, the restoration of the Emscher is also a big chance for the whole region to change. Not only are we constructing a sewage infrastructure and modernizing other water management infrastructure, but also developing the aquatic habitats, green-blue infrastructure, improve the city and the landscape, and improving water quality and quality of life through this. And I mentioned also the economical profits that this brings. And giving back to Mario now, the last two slides, just summing up factors of success and the links to the Israeli rivers and landscapes.
Okay, what we learned from our project is listed here in this slide. We think that the system of nature-based solutions is very crucial to this project, and it's not only related to the river, but also to the surroundings. What we also think, what was very helpful, is that we plan and develop our rivers on catchment scale, and we have an organization on catchment scale. That is not very typical for Germany. Usually, the municipalities have the right for planning and conducting of measures. But here in this Emscher area, the Emschergenossenschaft as a cooperative is managing the whole catchment, the whole river. That makes it easier to plan, and it's also a guarantee for a long-term planning, because our cooperative is not dependent from elections of a mayor or something like this, which means the idea can change after 4 years if a new politician is deciding another thing. So the cooperative is a guarantee for a long-term and stable planning process, a developing process, and that's what we needed, because it's already more than 30 years we are working on this project. Next thing is an integrated river basin management approach on catchment scale. Yeah, that's what I said before. Long-term planning, a clear division of tasks and responsibilities, and to plan integrated river basin management approach means planning not only a river, but also everything around the river restoration. On one side, the water management necessities like wastewater treatment plants, pumping stations, and so on. But also the broader view, bicycle path, areas where people can see the river and so on. That leads me to the next point. Participation is very important. Such a big project is really a big intervention in the area, which causes some problems for the people. It makes noise, it makes dirt, it makes a traffic jam somewhere because of the construction sites. So we have to really convince the people from the beginning on. We invest a lot of time and also not only manpower, but also money to inform the people, to make a real transparent communication, to invite the public to join our planning and our constructing. Then monitoring is very important. After a river is freshly restored, the monitoring starts, and we use the data of the monitoring to demonstrate the results, the success of the monitoring. And that means the development of biodiversity, for example, but also the next point, the demonstration of the as something, a demonstration of the added values of the multiple benefits, not only to nature, but also to the people. Nadine mentioned the principle of ecosystem services. What provides a new river for recreation, for quality of life, for the improvement of the housing and living parts and so on. And in the end, we think that, I think in Germany, this project is looked at as a real game changer in this area, because it is a former industrial area. And in many cases, these areas have a very bad perspective for the next decades. But this project is a positive message, and it's one of the, we don't have so many very big projects in Germany which are successful. Successful means they are finished at a certain point, and the money, which is the investment, which is planned, calculated 30 years ago, it's still in line. Many of you may know the airport in Berlin, for example, or there's also a famous station in Stuttgart in Germany. They are all far more expensive than planned in the beginning, and some of them are not finished for years. And the Emscher conversion is a project which has really success in all these points. And we think another advantage, which is not on the slide, is that it's a public project, and we are controlled by all the cities. They really care for the money, and and they press us to keep in the lines of our calculation. Okay, Nadine, something more? Yeah. Okay, so 4 points for our common work. I think not only for Germany, but also for Israel, for the Zipori project, is what we are doing is we also care for floods and droughts, for the extremes of the weather, of the climate change. And what we have already learned from you, for example, is what you do with the water in the water retention basins. In former time, we let it flow downstream. And when I was in Israel, I was really convinced that you said, we keep it. We need it for the groundwater, for the improvement of the groundwater level. And that's what we told our engineers. Biodiversity is very important. I think this is an important issue for all our projects. The participation, I think you are doing a similar way to integrate the locals, the local people, independently of religion and whatever. And I think what is also similar for our projects is that they serve not only for the development of rivers or biodiversity, but also for the development of the region and the cities or villages. And we use education to integrate the youngest people, which will use this river in future. And it's their surrounding, it's their life. So we have to tell them what is going on and what they have as an advantage of it. Okay, thanks from our side. And we are looking forward to hear your questions. And I've seen some in the chat or in the FAQs. I've given back to the moderator.
Thank you very much. Yael? Barak? Cannot see you. Okay. So we do have some questions from the audience. I have it here, but I will just read it to you. The first question that I have, the audience, somebody asked, what is the logic of the ecological stepping stones? What is the methodology you use to determine those sites? So you show the pearls. I guess this is the question. How do you select these sites? Based on what? If I understood correctly, the question.
I can try to start, and Nadine may add. We have in Germany a principle we call it stepping stones. Of course, you know it from ecology. And for rivers as longitudinal structures, there was some research how long stretches should be, that they are not too long for the migration of the species in order to connect the stepping stones, to say it in simple words. And we use these results to define the distance between the different ecological core areas. That was one approach, but in some cases it's still too long, the stretch between the stepping stones, of course, but it's also a pendant from the land you can buy. You don't have so many chances to buy the area you need to remove the dikes and to construct these really big sites, which are more than 20 or 30 hectares. And so this is not only depending from ecological things, but also from the possibilities you have. But the stretch between the sites, we also try to improve them. They are not like they have been before, really straight with concrete. We try to remove the concrete. Usually we remove the concrete. We try to do some more dynamics in this long stretch to make it possible, to make it possible for the species to migrate upstream and downstream. So maybe this is part of an answer.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think Mario said the most important aspects, how they were identified. And the challenge is, of course, to find also enough space for these sites. So we have to be a bit flexible to see where we can buy land and change the land to transform these areas to ecological core areas. And in this densely urbanized area, there's a lot of pipes. We saw the roads, the highway, shipping channel. There's also brownfield areas, contaminated soil. So lots of challenges that have to be checked before being able to start construction. Yeah.
Thank you. I see another interesting question. I don't remember who wrote that, but I just have it. That's interesting. How are conflicts managed when they arise in the cooperative? Because you have ecologists, but you also have engineers, and I know that it's sometimes may cause some conflicts between ecology and protection, flood protection measures, for example. So, and how are decisions made? So who has the upper hand, I guess, at the end? Is it ecology, or we know these conflicts, but this is like in-house. It's interesting to see how you manage that.
Will you start, Nadine? The other way around this time?
Yeah, I can try to explain the different levels of decision making. So we have, of course, the departments looking at the different aspects like ecology, flood protection, or the aim just, also to stay in schedule with the construction works. And also our operating department, which at the end has to deal with the developed areas and the conditions that are on site. And we have several working areas that bring together the different disciplines to try to develop an interdisciplinary discussed recommendations to our management level and presenting these compromises or solutions. And of course, sometimes they are very, it's difficult to find such compromises or synergies. So in these cases of conflict, the management board in the end has to evaluate what are the priorities in that case. Yeah.
Now, I may add that we are involved as an ecological department in all construction sites planning, in fact. But there's one thing which is, let me say, always the winner of the discussion. This is flood protection. So there's a clear wording. Flood protection is top one, ecology is top two. So in some discussions, we have to confess that we have to accept that, for example, dikes have still to be at the site. And dikes mean the options for ecology are really very small. So this is what we have to accept. But in many other discussions, they really want to hear our opinion, and they accept it, and they construct where they plan with regard to our arguments.
Thank you. I think this is something that we can definitely relate to when you have flood protection measures, and usually this will win in an argument, let's say, because it saves lives, it saves property, but we are trying also to think about other solutions. I think this is an interesting discussion that we could develop in the future, how to make this better. Running through the questions, how the budgeting and regulatory processes work for such project in Germany, private sources, or national? How do you have a balance between them? Or it's only national, if I understand correctly, the question?
I can start. If I understand it right, it's a question for the budget.
Yes.
It may be a surprise, but 80% of this investment of 5.5 billion euros comes from the people in the region, from the wastewater fees. We are allowed to use the wastewater fees for the restoring of the river, and the other 20% come from European money, German government, and different ministries, not only environment, but also education, for example, for the blue classrooms. But in fact, the region is paying for this big project, but over a long period of time.
Yeah, maybe just to add the association concept that Mario explained in the beginning. It includes the different budgets that each of the associates has to pay. There's a yearly meeting of the associates with our Emschergenossenschaftsheads, and we are explaining the budget needs and also budget shifts, for example. So this is these 80% that really come from the region that are distributed to our core tasks, including the river restoration.
So it's basically, or mostly, internal. So it's like a closed circuit funding that you have there. So you're not getting national budgets to do that.
So it's mainly money coming from the region.
From the region.
And as you saw in one slide that I showed, that also the construction again generates money and gives jobs, so it also stays in the region. That's an important point. And the additional 20%, they come from the federal state, from the national level, or from the European level, in terms of different funding projects, for example, ecological funding programs, or social development, urban development, climate adaptation, different aspects that we are, again, trying to use in multifunctional ways. So sometimes we use urban development funding in a way that also has a benefit for ecology and also for strong rain event management.
Do you think that this is my question now, do you think this economic model is a key point to your success in the Emscher in compared to other, let's say, models or economical models that rely on more external sources, budgets?
I think so, because this also means that the people have really a very close relation to the project. It's their money. And the mayors, for example, of the municipalities, they are all members of our advisory board. So they know what we are doing. They can explain their wishes, and and especially they take care for the money. Because the cities here, the municipalities are not so rich in this area, this former industrial area. So they really have a very close look at the money. But on the other side, they are very happy about this project because it is really a game changer for the infrastructure and for the quality of life here. And I think this is the reason why it works quite well. Mm.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I think as well. But it's not easy to do that, I guess. This is because you started as a cooperative and it didn't came later. So it already, this was your starting point.
Yeah.
Another question. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I want to add, Mario had this on the slide, factors of success, this long-term perspective, no? Several decades and beyond election periods. And this way of financing, it guarantees a long-term financing. So there's not a fear that after a certain construction, there will not be budget to continue with the other restoration projects that are still to be completed.
That's a strong point. Also looking forward to the future and then have a long-term plan and not just from project to project, which might be problematic. I'm moving to the fourth question. How restoration, the Emscher, supported improvement, social and economic well-being of domestic population? If I understand correctly, I'm not sure that I understand that. The well-being, yeah,
maybe referring to the few slides that I showed that show the economic benefit for the region. So, companies from the region are asked to do the construction work or to do the planning or to also, for example, develop educational programs. So all these different tasks, they are in large parts covered also by companies from the region. And this is what is also generating the jobs that I mentioned. Social aspects are, the educational program in general, improving life quality, improving the health situation with this improvement of water quality, also climate adaptation, so reducing heat island effects and reducing risks related to flooding and flash floods.
Exactly.
Another example may be the Lake Phoenix. I think that's a very outstanding example. We had this steel factory in former times. It was dismantled and sold to China, by the way. And then we had the problem that was really a completely destroyed area. And the Lake Phoenix, which is now the main attraction of this area, was financed by the selling of the land, of the real estate, to the people building their houses over there. And this area is so attractive today for the people that this part of the city of Dortmund is one of the very few parts in our area which is growing. It increases, the number of inhabitants increases. And this now takes over to the city of Dortmund, which is also increasing. That's really unique in our area. Usually our cities are decreasing in terms of inhabitant numbers, but Dortmund is growing. And I think the origin of this process is this lake. So that's also an example what an ecological improvement can do for a city and the people.
Yes, definitely. I was in Lake Phoenix several times, and it looks great. I wasn't there before when it used to be a factory, but I guess it wasn't as nice as it is today. I have another question. I think that's the last that I have here. No, it's two more. Two final questions. Based on your experience, and I think we already touched that, what advice would you offer to someone looking to establish similar cooperative today? So you have 100 years of cooperative. Is it possible to do something from scratch if you have or to rearrange a catchment based on this model? Do you think it's possible?
Maybe Mario can answer, because there's also quite a new association developing at the moment, with a different focus, of course. But yeah, to change the Emschergenossenschaft as it is now, I think there's no need and would be difficult. So it's good that in former times there was this need for all municipalities to come together to find one joint solution and to have the founding of the Genossenschaft in those times. But I'll let Mario answer.
I'm not sure if I got it right, Nadine, the question. Could you please repeat the core of the question?
I think if I understand correctly, is actually the other way around. So if we have, for now in Israel, we have somehow we are trying to reestablish the river management or the river basins, and maybe if there will be a restructuring based on this model of the Genossenschaft model, maybe it could work better. So to look at the blueprint of how the founders of the Emschergenossenschaft did that, maybe to try to do something similar now in existing. So just to reshuffle that and take the model, take the economical model, maybe to look at different angles and maybe to try to do something similar. I'm not sure that it will work everywhere because bureaucracy is horrible everywhere, but as a concept, I think that was the question, and it's an interesting thing, and I'm also thinking about that.
Yeah, it can be a blueprint if this is your question. I'm really convinced that's a good construction. But remember, the origin of this cooperative was a very bad situation. So there had, I think, if you are not pressed to do something, it's not so attractive. And in the situation where Emschergenossenschaft was founded, was a situation where no municipality on its own could develop a solution. So they had to work together and to skip bureaucracy and to start this cooperative idea. And also it was a law to do so. So you need a very strong support from your government, which says we want to have it there. You have to work together. I think this is also important. So it's not so easy to say, yes, good idea, we do the same. Of course, you can found a cooperative. That's not so difficult. We have thousands and millions of cooperatives in the world, but such a big and strong one is so much money, and that's always difficult. And what we really have to see, have to confess in the Emscher area, yes, we are a strong player, but sometimes we still have discussions with several cities which say, no, I'm not really happy with this. I have another idea, and so on. So it looks quite good, and it works, let me say, quite well. But the discussions between the different cities are still there, or different players, for example, also. So it's not so easy. And the most convincing thing at Emschergenossenschaft is we have the money and we have the law.
Maybe one more aspect, linking to what you just said, it needs a lot of communication on all levels. So our head of Emschergenossenschaft is communicating a lot with the mayors of the different municipalities to highlight new challenges also, like climate adaptation needs and to convince everyone to continue, working with that, and also increasing the budget, because we need more budget if we have more tasks, like, for example, climate adaptation. Convincing everyone that it is easier and more effective to bundle the forces and to work in one company for the whole region with the expertise and experience from now more than 100 years, than to have this experience and expertise scattered through the different municipalities. So it's in a way more effective also for the associates to give their tasks to us, to one company that is in charge of the whole region, and that's more effective in a way.
And one last thing from my side, what's also is happening always is you need presence for all these municipalities. Presence doesn't mean money, but if you construct a Lake Phoenix in Dortmund, the next city says we want to have the same lake. Or we want to have a new blue classroom. Okay, my neighbor has one. I also want to have one. So we have to balance the interests, and every city needs something attractive. That's to keep them all together.
Yeah, these highlight or lighthouse projects, they are very important. And the quality of life in the cities depends on them. So that's where the focus is put on.
So communication and money.
Yeah.
So maybe we need a Kaiser to sign the law. Okay. Thank you very much. That was very inspiring. I think we're running out of time. There are so many other questions, and of course we could talk for hours, but we won't do that now. Yael, I give you the microphone. Thank you.
Thanks, Yaron. Thank you very much, Nadine. Thanks, Mario. It was a fascinating presentation. We also recorded it. We will upload it to our YouTube channel and our website. I'll switch to Hebrew. Excuse me. אני כן, ככה, תודה רבה לכל מי שהיה איתנו. אני אגיד ככה כמה, כן, אסכם בכמה נקודות שאני חושבת ששווה לנו רגע לקחת אלינו מתוך המפגש הזה. ראינו ככה גם בתמונות היפות שמריו ונדין הראו לנו קודם, שהייתה מין אמירה כזאת, עלתה שאלה, כשיש איזשהו קונפליקט בין האקולוגיה לבין ההצפות, אז על מה הולכים, וגם שם נאמר, וירון אמר, אנחנו מכירים את זה גם אצלנו, שבסוף הנושא הזה של חיי אדם ורכוש והצפות נמצאים במקום הראשון, אבל אני חושבת שהיה מאוד מעניין לראות, אם אתם זוכרים את האזורים האלה שבהם אמרו, שהנחל נכנס לתוך תעלה, הנהר נכנס לתוך תעלה, מצד אחד יש כביש, מצד שני יש את אותה אזור תעבורה של אוניות, הם עדיין מחפשים למצוא את ההזדמנויות לאיפה כן אפשר, איפה אפשר לקחת עוד קצת, לקבל עוד קצת שטח ולעשות שם את האזורים שהם ההוטספוטס האקולוגיים. היה גם איזה ערוץ יפה שהראו ששם לא היה אפשר כנראה לעשות איזשהו שיקום גיאומורפולוגי, אבל פשוט הורידו את התכסית, את העיצוב הקשיח מהדפנות, והטבע עדיין עשה שם עבודה, למרות שעדיין היה לו מקום מוגבל. אני חושבת שזה שתי דוגמאות יפות שאנחנו יכולים לקחת איתנו. שני דברים אחרונים שאני ככה שמה לנו באיזשהו היילייט. אחד זה הנושא של המערכת הכלכלית. אני לא יודעת כמה זה היה ככה מובן מתוך הוובינר, וככה גם בשפה האנגלית, אבל בעצם הם מראים לנו שברגע שאתה מייצר גוף שמחזיק את כל המערכת של הטיפול במים בתוך האגן, אתה בעצם מייצר מקורות הכנסה. הם דיברו על זה ש80% ממקורות ההכנסה מגיעים ממקורות מקומיים. הם דיברו על הנושא הזה של אגרה של טיפול במים. אותה אגרה שאנחנו משלמים היום לעיריות שלנו, הם מייצרים מזה את אותו מקור הכנסה מאוד מהותי לתוך המערכת. והם אמרו גם דבר יפה, הכסף מגיע מתוך התושבים, והוא גם חוזר חזרה לתושבים. העובדה שמעסיקים, הם ציינו שמעסיקים חברות ואנשי מקצוע מקומיים, כלומר בסוף מקומות העבודה והאנשים שעובדים בתוך הפרויקטים הם אנשים מתוך האגן. יש פה איזושהי מעגליות יפה. עוד פעם, אנחנו נמצאים אצלנו במקום אחר, אבל מעניין, וזה לחשיבה גם ברמות הגבוהות, מה אנחנו כן יכולים לאמץ אלינו. והדבר האחרון, וזה משהו שאנחנו ככה חורטים ואומרים אותו כל הזמן, הוא כאילו האמירה הכי פשוטה, אבל אולי הכי מורכבת ליישם. בסוף הם דיברו על זה שהדבר הכי חשוב שעומד לנגד עיניהם זה הנושא של שותפות, הנושא של תקשורת עם הגופים השונים. הדוגמה הזאת של אגם פיניקס, שהם דיברו ליד העיר שאני לא בטוחה שאני אבטא את שמה נכון, דרטמונד או משהו בסגנון הזה, שבסוף היה פרויקט מוצלח, שהראה לעיר שפרויקט אקולוגי מוצלח מביא לאיכות חיים, ומריו אמר, ואחר כך מקומות נוספים רצו עוד. אז לפעמים, אני אומרת, אני עושה לעצמנו גם זרקור, שלפעמים אנחנו עושים פרויקט שהוא ברמה אגנית, אבל מספיק שיהיה מקטע אחד שעובד כמו שצריך, בשביל שיצליח לגייס אלינו בעלי עניין ושותפים נוספים, שירצו ויתנו את המקום, או יתנו את המשאבים, או יתנו את האפשרות, לעבוד גם באזור שלהם ולהתגייס לטובת המהלך. אני מודה שוב למריו, נדין וירון. שני דברים אחרונים לפני שאני סוגרת את הוובינר. אחד, אם אתם מכירים, עובדים עם פרויקטים נוספים בחו"ל שיכולים להיות רלוונטיים לנו לארץ, עוסקים בשיקום נחלים, ניהול נגר, צמצום סיכוני הצפות, ואתם חושבים שזה פרויקטים כל כך מעניינים שאתם חושבים שכולם צריכים להכיר, אז תפנו אלינו, אנחנו ממש נשמח לדעת ולתת לזה במה. זה הדבר הראשון. דבר שני ואחרון, אנחנו מיד אחרי פסח פותחים מחזור נוסף של קורס תכנון נחלים אצלנו באגמה. אני רגע אראה לכם את הפלייר למי שעוד לא שמע, עוד לא יצא לו להתקל בפרסום. רואים? כן, מעולה. אני אגיד שהקורס הזה הוא כמו כל יתר הפעילויות שאנחנו מוציאים לפועל, הוא לא מיועד רק למתכננים. הרעיון הוא באמת שיגיע, וכך גם היה במחזורים הקודמים, שיגיע קהל מגוון של אנשי מקצוע להכיר וללמוד את השפה התכנונית של עולם הנחלים. הקורס נותן גם אפשרות להבין בצורה יותר עמוקה את הקשר בין תכנון מתארי לבין תכנון מפורט בעולם הזה של נחלים. יש לנו 5 מפגשים שגם שגם נותנים במה לסיורים בשטח, גם ללמידה של עמידים, גם לעבודה קבוצתית, וזאת באמת הזדמנות טובה להגיע ולפגוש ולעבוד בצורה הרבה יותר אינטנסיבית, וגם פנים מול פנים עם אנשי מקצוע שעובדים היום בתחום. אנחנו ממש מזמינים אתכם לפחות להיכנס לאתר שלנו, לבחון את הסילבוס, לראות אם הוא מתאים לכם, אם יש לכם שאלות, אם זה כן נוגע לכם, לא נוגע לכם, שאלות טכניות אחרות, אתם יותר מוזמנים לפנות אלינו. וזהו, תודה רבה לכל מי שהיה איתנו, תודה שוב למריו, נדין וירון, ואנחנו נתראה במפגש הבא. שיהיה לכולם שבוע טוב.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thanks, Nadine.
Also from my side, thanks a lot. Have a nice week.
Thank you.
All the best for you.
See you soon.
All the best, yeah.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.